I give form to the invisible. Hi, everyone. Antonio Thornton, February 9th, day number 40. 40 days. Day number 40 of 365. Science of Mind. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey. Today's lesson is a doozy. I give form to the invisible. Now, I'm going to use a different quote again today, which I feel really encapsulates this entire lesson. Though it's been said so many times, I can't really seem to find the original author or the original person who said it. But the quote is, "Believing is seeing." Believing is seeing. And I'm going to come back to that once we go through this amazing lesson. So the lesson reads, life at the center of your being is a silent power. Physical facts, form, and conditions are no obstruction to this power. It flows through them, takes a new form in them, and takes a new form in them. It remolds them. That which makes can remake. That which molds can remold. That which create can recreate. Remember, what you see comes from what you do not see. The visible is the invisible made manifest. Let me read it again. The visible is the invisible made manifest. It is the invisible caught in temporary form. Every time you think, you are giving form to this invisible power. The question arises whether any limit can be placed upon the possibility of the conscious use of spiritual power. Well, theoretically, it would seem impossible to place such a limit. The only limitation would be that which proceeds from lack of belief or understanding. The Spirit itself must be ever present within us. If we could strip our minds of the ridiculousness of fear, and I threw that in, of course, superstition, and all sense of separation from this divine presence, approaching it quite simply and directly, we would probably be surprised at the results that would follow. We would probably be surprised. In using spiritual law, the one having the greatest faith obtains the best results. And for the affirmation and meditation is, I am surrounded by a spiritual presence that responds to my word. Today, I take charge of my thinking, knowing that the divine appears to each only as a measure of his own imagination. I enlarge the concept I present to it for fulfillment. I wait calmly and expectantly for new and greater experiences to come to me. Wow. Wow. I've got to get my country Billy Bob hoot on that one. Hoo-wee. That is a powerful, powerful lesson. there's so much to say about this. So I will do what I can to keep this from being 5 hours long. But let's just start with the quote that believing is seeing. Now, we've all heard the quote growing up that seeing is believing. And we hear that quote typically when someone is saying, well, no, I need proof of something. I need to see something before I believe it. And that is our lower self in this physical world, looking at it from this limited of a view. This is how limited that view is. To say that I have to see a thing before I believe a thing. Because in the broader context of things is that the visible is just the invisible manifest. It's the invisible manifest. So if you don't believe a thing, how are you going to see it? How are you going to see it? And let me tell you one of the lines that I really love that I pulled out of this. The visible is the invisible made manifest. It is the invisible caught in temporary form. Woo! Look at that. And you've heard me talk about quantum physics and how science and spirituality are two sides of the same coin, which is why I love this teaching, because it doesn't make one better or worse than the other. It doesn't make one right or wrong. It recognizes the significance and substantial contribution that each makes to our own understanding. It makes equal representation of our, or contribution rather, to our own understanding of this world, this universe that we live in. You cannot have one without the other. You just simply can't. So I talk about quantum physics and the idea of how matter is formed when we look at on a microscopic level, and we talk about waveforms versus particles. Now, I won't get into all the details here because this is not a quantum theory course, but always feel free to look up Dr. Quantum, if I'm not mistaken. And the movie I recall is What the Bleep. I'll put a link in the description for you. Fantastic movie. But it explains it in very, very layman's terms in that movie about how things come into being, and that on its fundamental level, all matter is a waveform. It is a waveform. They aren't particles in that they are probabilities of existence. And not until an observer comes into the equation does this particle as a waveform become a particle in a single point of space at a specific time. When you remove the observer, this particle becomes a waveform, a probability. It becomes a probability of existence. Now, that may sound a little complex to some. To others, you're probably eating it up like I do. And again, if it's something that you want to explore further, start out with What the Bleep. Great movie, but also look up Dr. Quantum. There's a YouTube video that explains just that portion. And I'll find that video and I'll share that link with you as well in the description. But that is exactly what this spiritual text is referencing. The visible is the invisible made manifest, and it is the invisible caught in temporary form. Temporary form. So here's something else that'll blow your mind. If you removed observation from anything, does that thing then exist? The theory is no, it doesn't. Chew on that for a moment. But let's get back to the lesson here. So much in this is amazing. So here we go. The question arises, is there a limit that can be placed upon this invisible force? Is there a limit? And here's what I love of how this is worded. This is very, very carefully, very carefully and concisely worded. Theoretically, it would seem impossible to place such a limit. The only limitation would be that which proceeds from lack of belief or understanding. Yeah. Want me to read that again? The only limitation would be that which proceeds from lack of belief or understanding. So, here it is. We know that God is all there is. God is all there is. I, you, this camera, everything else is an individuation of the one divine spirit, divine power, energy, universe, whatever you want to call it. That we know that there is only God. There is only spirit. There's only energy. We know that. So what limit could you put on such a vast power? There is none. Other than, and theoretically, the only limitation would be lack of belief or understanding. The Spirit itself must be ever present with us. If we could strip our mind of fear, superstition, and all sense of separation from this divine presence, approaching it quite simply and directly, we would probably be surprised at the results that would follow. No, I'm going to have to reword that and say we would definitely be surprised at the results that followed. If we were able to strip ourselves of any fear, any superstition, any doubt, any anxiety, any worry, any form of disbelief, we now become in harmony, in alignment, and in union with Source. And in that place, anything is possible. Anything is possible. What's the practical application we want to take from this? The one is the quote, believing is seeing. If you find yourself as being one who's typically skeptical, if you find yourself as one who tends to lean more towards the negative than the positive, things not working out for you versus things working out for you, if you find yourself in a place of disbelief, you find yourself in a place of confusion or superstition, any of these things that it mentioned here, if we could strip our mind of fear, superstition, and all other ridiculous notions that we are separated from this divine presence, identify it, be with it, and release it, let it go. Let it go. Well, I don't believe I could do so-and-so and such and such. And maybe you can't, but the divine presence is unlimited in its capabilities because it is the all. It is the all. It is ridiculous to think that there are any possible limitations. And let's think about that question here. It says, the question arises whether any limit can be placed upon the possibility of the conscious use of spiritual power. Is there any limitation? Only your own. You can create whatever you desire to the degree that you believe. To the degree that you believe. And that can be challenging in itself, because a lot of times we aren't even clear on what we believe. Our past, our experiences, our upbringing, our society, our immediate environment, our own self-limiting beliefs are always hiding underneath our conscious thoughts that drive us. They're always right underneath that conscious thinking. So just, thinking positive for a few minutes, though better than nothing, is not the solution. The idea is to really unearth those beliefs and clear those beliefs out so that you truly allow yourself to flow the divine energy that is you, without restriction, without limitation, without any form of obstruction. That's your practical application. That is your practical application. Believe. Start with wherever you are, and whatever activities, meditations, affirmations, surrounding yourself with positive people, watching this awesome series and others, is getting yourself into the knowing and the believing of what is available to you, and using it. Wow. What a powerful, powerful lesson today. What a very, very powerful lesson. I give form to the invisible. That is the power you have. You have the power to give form to the invisible. What are you creating in your experience? What are you giving form to in your life? Something to think about. Woo! Well, we come to the end of another episode of 365 Science of Mind. I'm going to give form to the invisible. I'm going to give form I'm going to create likes, shares, and comments. I'm going to make the invisible manifest in the form of like, shares, and comments. I am going to commit to that because that is what I would want to see. So that is what I will believe, and that is what I will bring into manifestation. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, night, or evening, whatever time you're listening to this. And I really, truly intend for you to get this very powerful lesson and apply it to your life. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, day number 41 of 365 Science of Mind. I'll be talking to you then. Take care.